Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of Fishing with Jordan, brought to you by Armstrong. If you're looking for a good, high-speed, reliable internet provider, make sure you check out Armstrong. And if you're already a customer, I assure you you've made the right choice. As somebody who travels all over the place, uploading content and using different internet providers, Armstrong is by far the best. They have the most reliable internet, and their customer service is absolutely second to none. With their U.S.-based call center in Butler, Pennsylvania, and local support team, Armstrong can support any residential customer, and they have absolutely amazing business services as well. So, if you need a new internet provider, make sure you give Armstrong a call. Enough about that, though. Let's start talking about fishing. In today's episode, I'm going to be fishing the Willow Island pool of the Ohio River. And today, I'm taking off out of St. Mary's, West Virginia. Now, there is multiple different areas that you can take off at for this particular pool, just like every pool that I know of for the Ohio River. If you're looking to fish a new area and you're wanting to come here, the 4 best takeoff places I can think of would be 1, the St. Mary's Marina. It's a great boat ramp with a lot of parking. There's never any theft that you hear about or anything like that. It's a great boat ramp. It drops right into the through fare, so there's not a lot of current you have to go against to try to load and unload your boat. And, you know, it's kind of towards the southern part of the pool, but it's an absolutely great boat ramp. Another boat ramp is Frontier, Ohio has a boat ramp. Again, there's a lot of parking there. It is kind of right in the current, but it's still a really good boat ramp. Another one that I recommend is the Payton City boat ramp. They're in Payton City, West Virginia. It has a lot of parking. The only downside to that boat ramp is right across from it, there's an island. And if you don't know much about the area, there's a lot of shallow rocks near the island. You could definitely tear up your boat there if you don't know what you're doing. So if you go to that particular boat ramp, you're not familiar with the area, don't go anywhere near the island unless you have good electronics and you know what you're looking for. You know, if you're an experienced boater that knows how to avoid absolute disaster, Payton City's not a bad boat ramp. And then there's one, I don't know the name of the town, but if you go right across the bridge from New Martinsville, there's a boat ramp on the Ohio side. Again, great boat ramp, lots of parking, really secluded. It kind of goes with the current, so it's easy to load in and out of. The only downside to that boat ramp is there's a really long concrete wall that comes out, like way out, and if the water's slightly elevated, you're not going to see it, and it's a good way to tear up a trolling motor. I know because I have experience. Anyways, outside of where you can take off at and where you can launch your boat from, for those of you that are not familiar with the Ohio River, it is primarily a smallmouth fishery. Don't get me wrong, there's plenty of largemouth on this river, but with some recent studies, number 1, they found that the smallmouth population is larger. But 2, in general, a lot of people that fish this river are targeting smallmouth. So that's what I'm going to be primarily targeting today, is smallmouth. And with that being said, let's talk about the conditions and what I'm going to tie on a little bit before we get on the water. So the conditions, we're looking at 80-degree water temps, you know, just like you are everywhere. We're right in the middle of summer. We're getting to the dog days of summer. So 80+ degree water temps is to be expected. There's been a little bit of rain in the area lately, so the surface temp of the water could be a little bit lower. Water color overall should be really clear. There should be a lot of water clarity here because there hasn't been any big storms lately. There hasn't been anything to raise up a lot of mud in the last couple weeks. So water clarity should be pretty clear for the most part. As far as how I plan on targeting them, it's been a while since I've been on the Ohio River. So when I say a while, I mean like 3 or 4 weeks. Whenever the Bass Festival was the last time I fished here. So a lot of things have changed since then. So I'm really going to be throwing the kitchen sink at it today until I figure out what pattern they're on. But primarily, I want to start off with a Zara spook and a frog for top water. There's a few areas that I really want to see if I can get a top water bite. And if I can get them there, I know I can get them elsewhere. I'm going to always, whenever you're smallmouth fishing, I always tie on a crankbait. It's a given. I love throwing a square bill crankbait for smallmouth. Another bait I want to tie on is a deeper diving crankbait, something that goes, a Berkeley dredger. I think it goes to 14 foot, if I remember correctly. So I have a crankbait that can handle shallow water, and then I have a crankbait that can handle deeper water. Outside of that, whenever we get on the finesse side of things, I do have a turd, TRD, whatever you want to call it, tied on. Molten crawl color is the color I chose just because this time of year, you know, if you're going to be fishing on bottom, the chances are good the fish are eating on crawfish. So Nice crawl color for that. I have a finesse jig tied on. I have a drop shot tied on. And finally, I have a super fluke tied on, and those are going to be the baits that I start off with. And I know that's a whole range of baits, and there's a whole lot of different baits, and you're probably thinking to yourself, do you even know what you're going to start with? And the answer to that is yes. I'm going to start off with topwater, because this time of year, I always start off with topwater and try to rule it out first. Two different reasons. Number one, you can get on a really big topwater bite all summer long. Number two, I just want to make sure that I'm not going to miss out on all the fun. Topwater is probably the most exciting bite that you can get. Big or small, it's exciting. So I want to make sure that, you know, I'm not missing out on something good by just avoiding the topwater bite altogether. So now it's time to get on the water, but before we do, let's take a moment to remember the men and women who have made our freedom possible. Stand by for this episode's Jan Dill's Military Moment. This week's Jan Dill's Military Moment is honoring Marine Sergeant Dakota Myers for his heroic actions in Afghanistan in 2009, which not only led to him receiving the Medal of Honor, but he saved 36 lives as well. Those lives were a mix between U.S. military members and Afghani military members in which he had been serving beside for several months. I think they were almost to the end of their deployment whenever this ambush happened. And him and one other Marine used a gun truck to go in and out of a highly hostile town or village, whatever you'd like to call it, while receiving heavy gunfire to save the lives of those 36 people and recover the bodies of their fallen service members as well. Dakota Myers is without a doubt one of the most heroic figures during my time in the military, and he deserves the utmost respect from not only current service members, but the United States as a whole. Dakota Myers is without a doubt one of America's truest heroes. Sergeant Dakota Myers, this salute is for you. Okay, y'all, so one last thing before we get on the water. I just want to let you know, if you're a veteran like myself and you're struggling to get the benefits that you deserve from the VA, give Jan Dill's a call. I have personally utilized her team of expert attorneys, and I am here to tell you that they do an amazing job. Number one, they're compassionate. Number two, they actually care about the veteran. And number three, they win. I have referred several of my friends to their group of attorneys, and they have all had fantastic results. You are significantly less likely to win this battle against the VA without an attorney, and that is statistically proven. So put the odds in your favor and call the attorneys that won't take no for an answer. Hey! Hey there, finally starting to get some hookups on the river here. Another little one got me right at the boat. Another little one got me right. There he is. Oh, this is a good one. This is a good one. I don't know what it is, but it is a good one. Oh. Come on. Come on. This is why y'all hook the net before you start fishing. Well, it's a smallmouth. It is a bass. It is. No, it's not. It's catfish. Catfish. is a catfish. There he is. Oh, come on, big guy. Come on. Come on. Yeah, he just wants to put it up. Oh, yeah, buddy. Thank you, God. Oh, this is a good one. Look at that one right there, boys and girls. That's a nice Ohio River smallmouth right there. One. That's a subtle hit right there. That's not bad. It is. Another keeper smallmouth. For a second, I thought he was going to be a striper. That was a real subtle hit, buddy. Right there. Another smallmouth in the river here. It's probably actually short being a keeper. There he is. Not a big one. Not a big one, but you're fishing the Ohio River. They all count. Right? When you're fishing the Ohio River, they all count. Thank you, God. Another fish. Okay, y'all, so let's take a quick break from fishing, and I'm gonna bring you a boat tip brought to you by Seven Rivers Marine. Okay, y'all, so in today's Seven Rivers Marine boat tip, I'm just gonna give you a quick piece of advice on how to keep your boat looking new and shiny, just like the day it came off of the showroom floor. All it takes is a nice microfiber rag and a little bit of water. Every time you pull your boat off the water, take a quick 2 minutes to just wipe it all down and keep it looking nice and shiny. It doesn't take anything more than that. Just get your microfiber towel a little bit wet, wring it out, and wipe down the whole boat, and it will stay looking nice, new, and shiny. And speaking of looking sharp, check out this wrap brought to you by Sinorama in South Point, Ohio. They have done my wrap 2 years in a row now, and I have to say I've never been disappointed. So if you're looking for a nice shiny wrap that says everything about your business or your brand, make sure you give Sinorama in South Point, Ohio a call. Enough of that, let's get back on the water. Took it last minute, but I got a fish. Thank you, God. Apparently all we're catching on the river today is little one, boys and girls. I'll take them. Thank you, God. When you're not in a tournament, catching a fish is catching a fish. And when you're on the Ohio River, in general, catching a fish is catching a fish. It's the Ohio River. This is a decent one. This is a decent one. Really decent one. Hey. There we go. Got one on the turd. One of those crawl colored TRDs. That's not a bad, that is not a bad Ohio River smallmouth right there. So it's time for this week's Ohio River Outdoors Tackle Shop Talk, and I really appreciate you all tuning in. If you haven't been to Ohio River Outdoors before, it's the biggest bait and tackle shop in the state of West Virginia and probably on the East Coast. It's located in Williamstown, West Virginia, and I can assure you that it has everything you need. Go check them out on Facebook. It's absolutely amazing. And for this week's Tackle Shop Talk, I'm obviously not in the tackle shop. I'm out here on the water getting ready for a tournament, making some content for y'all. So I'm doing it from the boat. I'm sorry I can't show you around the tackle shop like I normally would. But in this episode, I want to talk to y'all about line selection, because line selection is probably one of the most important decisions you can make whenever it comes to bass fishing. I don't want to make this overly complicated, nor do I want to go into a whole lot of depth. I just want to make this a quick tip. So the one thing I want to talk about is, when do you pick a fluorocarbon or a monofilament or a braid? Well, for me personally, 90% of the time with 90% of the baits, I'm going to use fluorocarbon for a couple different reasons. Number one, fluorocarbon is a lot more sensitive, and secondly, it has a lot less stretch. So you can feel a lot of what's going on if you're throwing something like a crankbait or a jig or anything like that. And you can also feel a lot of those really finessey light bites. So if I'm throwing any kind of moving bait, like a crankbait, buzz bait, sorry, not a buzz bait, if I'm throwing a crankbait, or if I'm throwing a swim jig or something like that, or any kind of finesse bait, I'm using fluorocarbon or a fluorocarbon leader to a braid mainline. If I'm throwing top water, like a frog or a buzz bait or a pop-R or something like that, I use monofilament, because monofilament floats, so you're not fighting your line trying to keep your bait on top of the water. And finally, and probably the only two instances that I use straight braid in is, one, if I'm throwing a frog, because again, braid does float, but you're also throwing frogs in a lot of areas where you wouldn't typically throw something like a buzz bait, because the buzz bait would get hung up. So you're throwing frogs near a lot of grass, into a lot of cover, and that braid's not going to break off, especially around that grass. Which brings me to my second presentation I like to use straight braid for, and that's swimming a worm, like a large Magnum style ribbon tail worm through a bunch of heavy grass. I like to use straight braid, and it's simply because that grass will abrase and nick up your line if you're using a fluorocarbon, and it'll make it harder. It'll increase your chances of losing a fish. So whenever I'm throwing through grass with a worm and I'm trying to swim it through there, I stick to straight braid. Well, I really hope y'all enjoyed this week's Tackle Shop Talk, brought to you by Ohio River Outdoors. Now it's time for our recap, brought to you by Armstrong. Okay, y'all, so that's it for our time on the water today. I really hope you enjoyed it. Just a few things I want to go over before we wrap up today's video that might help you your next time out on the water. Number one, the first thing I want to point out is, whenever we started today's fishing journey, I was obviously using some type of topwater bait. And just in case you weren't able to tell what it was, I was using a Zara spook and a frog. I was alternating between the two, but most of my bites came off of the Zara spook. I think I only had one keeper bite on the Zara spook, but it was definitely enough to keep me going back for more. And honestly, I probably stuck with that presentation a little bit too long, because also, as you noticed, as the time went on, and I know it's hard to see in a time-lapse video or an edited up video, but as time went on throughout the day, the topwater bite definitely disappeared. And the one thing I was guilty of, just like a lot of anglers are guilty of, is hanging on to that too long. Which brings me to my second point, and the thing that can probably help you on the water the most your next time out is, don't be scared to try new things. Don't be scared to switch it up, especially if you've been out on that lake recently and there's something you know was working recently. and you're trying it that day, you're trying it the day that you're out in the water, and you're not getting the exact bites that you think you should be getting, don't be scared to switch up your presentation. Even though the summer pattern is pretty consistent with fish, they still change things up a little bit. And it might be whether there's a current change, the water dropped. It's hard to tell what could have happened. The bait moved, you name it, it could have happened. So don't be scared to change the presentation that you're using. Now, the presentations, the two presentations that I had the most luck with today, in my opinion, was a drop shot and a crawl colored TRD, or a turd, whatever you want to call it. A few things that I would like to just bring up about those. I'll just start at the beginning. A few things I want to bring up about those is my rod and reel setup, the line I like to use, and some of the tackle I like to use with it. So whenever it comes to my rod and reel setup for both of those presentations, a nice 7-foot open face rod works really well. Now, don't get me wrong, that's relative to your size. If you're a shorter person, 6'8" or something like that would work just fine. But for me personally, I like a nice 7-foot rod. Speed doesn't really matter whenever it comes to open face reels, so I'm not going to dive into that. Whenever it comes to my line selection, I like to use an 8 to 10 pound test fluorocarbon leader to a braid main line. Whenever it comes to my leader length, I'll go anywhere between 12 and 18 inches, but I really don't want to reel it up too far into my reel, because I don't know about y'all, but I tend to have issues with my knot pulling on my braid and messing up the internals of my reel. So I don't want to deal with fighting braid all day and fighting knots inside of my reel, so I try not to reel it too far into my reel. The other thing I'd like to bring up is whenever it comes to picking either your net head or your weight for your drop shot, in my opinion, the lighter you can go, the better. Don't fish too light to where your bait's not getting to the bottom, especially in an efficient amount of time, or if you're dealing with current. But go as light as you can get by with, because a lot of times those fish are going to catch your bait on the fall. Okay, so that's it for today's episode. I really hope y'all enjoyed it. If you're joining in from the Armstrong Neighborhood channel, I appreciate y'all tuning in. And if you're watching from the Armstrong YouTube page, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. And if you're looking for more fishing content from me personally, you can find my page at either JL Fishing Experience on YouTube or JL Fishing Experience on Facebook. I appreciate y'all coming out, and I'll see you next time.